Is this live? What's up? How do I share this? What's up? I'm live. I don't know what to do. I didn't prepare anything. Oh. Leila Zadeh. I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Is this? Someone tell me if this is working. Move this. Move this. What's up? How's everyone doing? I'm here live from my balcony and wanted to just talk about data science. Honestly, I wanted to answer questions, but more than that, someone please give me a question. I thought it'd be more interactive. I've never done this before. I don't even know why I'm listening to like these headphones because obviously no one's on the other side. So yeah, what can I help with, everyone? Ask me questions. Please. I want to ask me questions. Mohit. Oh, oops. Did I retract your question? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh no, he did that. Okay, running geeks first, and then I'll take Layla's question. How do you suggest we study for statistics interview questions? Great question. Statistics is really hard. I almost feel like it is basically a lot of memorization. And essentially, I personally was never really good at it. But I would say that the best thing you could do is actually to program like sampling techniques in code. What I mean by that is to use Python. And when they ask you a question like, what's a binomial distribution, just write that out in code. And then that will basically be like a really good indication of you know it. Because if you know it really well, then you'll double your knowledge of it by being able to code it, because then you can prove that you can code it. So basically, whenever you can code anything with your knowledge, it shows that you're like really, really good at it. And so I always say be able to code it or be able to explain it like a 5-year-old to someone who's 10. Next one, Layla, can you talk about the reasons why you chose this field? I chose data science because I thought it was really interesting in terms of its practical implication to everything. So I chose it because I thought that I'd be able to apply it to like things like economics. I'd be able to apply it to basically like sports betting, gambling, housing, all these things. I just wanted to know the answer to those things. And then whenever you came up with these insights, everyone was like, "Oh my God, you're a magician," you know? And so basically, that was the main reason why I did it. And then now I'm in business because, that kind of novelty effect kind of wears off. And I like business stuff too instead. Because now you also get a little bit more feedback in business because of how you make money, and then money comes in, and then you're like, oh, I'm doing something right. And then if you do something more correct, then more money comes in. And if you do something wrong, then less money comes in. So that kind of gives me better feedback than, sometimes I'll write like a data science blog post and I'll put my heart and soul into it, and then nothing will come out. And then I'll be like, boo hoo, like that. It's not great either. So the feedback mechanism is actually stronger, and I actually try to strive towards things that have really good feedback mechanisms. Cindy, how did you get started in data science, and why do you continue to stay in the field? Kind of answered that question already, but yes. Basically, I continue to stay in this field because it's interesting. We're on the cutting edge of AI and more things like that. So, how deep do interviewers go when asking A/B testing questions during on-site interviews? So this one I've actually heard some conflicting things about. I think on technical screens, they'll ask you a pretty easy A/B testing question just to make sure that you know it. But on the on-site, it really depends on which kind of companies that you're interviewing for. So I know places like Google really, really care about it. I'm not entirely sure why. I can ask a little bit more. My friend Ying, she would know a lot more about that. But basically, I think a lot of the times what happens when you join these big tech companies, they have all these like systems in place, and you could like just click two buttons and run a test and then get like results basically in maybe like a week or two. And so when it becomes that easy to run tests, I think they really care about like the second order effect, which is then like, can you analyze these A/B tests really, really well? Because it's so easy to run tests. Because when I've worked at companies, it's so hard to run tests. Like just in general, like everyone was just like, no, let's not run an A/B test. It's too much work. But at all these big tech companies, it's so easy to run tests. So a lot of it is just kind of like thought experiments now. So it's just like, okay, say we're going to do this A/B test. What's going to happen if this yada yada happens, and they've also run through so many of these simulations themselves, so they have really good knowledge about it. So that's generally kind of the reason why I think they ask a lot of these A/B testing questions, and I think that's also in terms of like actually answering your question about like how deep they go. I would say that they definitely will go pretty deep. Depends on the company, but specific ones will probably ask you to know all these kind of like fundamentals, not like something extremely crazy. And if they do, then that's just the way it is. But most of the time, it's just like fundamentals on like multivariate testing, regular A/B testing, cannibalization, all these other things. And we'll be writing a blog post about it soon, but we also have our course on interview query as well. All right. Whoa, lots of them now, so I got to get through. Jobber for life, yes. Great. Mohit, how do you suggest we study for Python coding questions that are asked in FANG interviews? They sometimes ask leak code easy questions of software development, which become tough for data professionals. Yes, I also agree. I hate leak code, not just because they're a competitor, but also because that their questions are tough. In terms of studying for it, I don't know a better way than just to practice more questions, and that is kind of tough right now. You can practice the questions that they ask specifically and then just get better at those kinds of questions. But I think for a lot of the Python coding ones, the really good thing about it is that a lot of it just kind of comes from just you coding on your own. So if you have to do like string manipulation, or the other day I had to like just parse through a bunch of interview experiences and like put them into bigrams and look at them, like that was really good practice, and that's like a regular interview question. So say for that, just like keep on coding. If you need specific ones then. Oh shit, I'm gonna go behind. How important is it to have experience with particular cloud platforms and putting models into production? Again, depends on the role. Definitely, if you're applying to like an AWS role or something, then I'm sure it really matters. But all right, sorry, scratch that. I would say that like if you are applying to startups, great, you should definitely have this experience. If you're applying to bigger tech companies, then it doesn't really matter as much because they have their own systems. But especially startups, they need people. If you have like experience putting models into production, that's huge because one, that means they don't have to hire two people for your role, a data scientist and a machine learning engineer. And then two, you're just like that much better because you can actually ship something. It's surprising how hard it is to put things into production. And I think it's getting easier and easier, but I wouldn't say it's like a definitive LinkedIn skills requirement. Okay, Layla, I tried myself an internship as a data scientist, banking industry. The domain side of data science made me feel annoyed. What can we do if the domain is problematic? Switch domains, I would say. Banking does kind of suck, but there's tons of other ones. You can apply data science to literally everything. All right, what is your opinion on getting a master's in data science versus a master's in computer science? That is a interesting question. I would say a master's in data science is definitely pretty common nowadays, but I also think a master's in computer science is as well. I think the only difference is that a master's in computer science probably opens you up for more possibilities in terms of you can be a software engineer and a data scientist. While master's in data science probably doesn't allow you to be a software engineer. So it's probably the main thing there. And then I guess you don't learn as much about machine learning, but I mean, do we really even need to learn about machine learning anymore to be a data scientist? I don't think so. Layla, again, think a person always dependent on domain experts. Not sure what you mean there. Maybe rephrase that. Did you ever feel discouraged because of the DS interview being so unpredictable? How can you keep up with every topic, especially when companies have a different focus? I did feel discouraged, but I would say that if companies have different focuses, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just might mean that the fit between what you want to do and what they want to do is bad. Now, this obviously is wrong if every single company is rejecting you, then the saying goes, if it's all of them, then it's probably you, not them, right? And so I definitely felt discouraged, but at the end of the day, I was pretty strong in my own convictions about like what I wanted out of each job role. So I would encourage all you guys to lay out your top 3 priorities for what you want. It shouldn't just be, like I want my first data scientist job, because that's too general. And when it's too general, it also makes other people not really understand like what you are really striving for. Because then it kind of just sounds like you're looking for the pedigree, which no one really wants to hire someone for. And so generally, I would say figure out what you want, then kind of craft a good role around yourself so you can tell a story. And then eventually you'll be able to get a lot more inbound and do a little bit better. And definitely don't be discouraged because everyone gets rejected all the time. How do you get better at data engineering from a data science background, given we've already taken all intermediate CPSC courses? Not sure what that is. I'll need some more background on that. What are good DE projects to work on that skill? So I would say that getting better at data engineering kind of comes, to me, it came a little naturally because it was required for a lot of data science things I had to do. This meant that like if I wanted to build this model, I had to write an ETL to build that model at the time. So it was just kind of like this just happened. And so I'd be very surprised at if you're working at a current job right now and you're like, how do I get better at data engineering? I'm sure like 10 software engineers would stand up and give you all of their data engineering work right now, and then you'd probably get better at that. if you're in class, which it kind of sounds like you are, I think something else that would be really helpful is doing a lot of scraping projects. I found that scraping projects really helped me in terms of getting better at data engineering, because basically you had to take data from one place, the website, and put it into your own internal database, and then transform it for a data set that was good for analysis. And that was really hard. And that took a lot of time. And it makes you focus and makes you think about it and makes you work on it. So that's my 2 cents on that. It depends on the industry, I guess. For finance-specific domain expertise, we quite important affected as we'll need a lot of financial content. Yep, that's true. Beneath, hey Jay, does Interview Query have a Slack community? Would we be able to get referrals for data science positions at FANG if we subscribe? It does have a Slack community. We are working on a referral marketplace for that. I think the only issue right now is that referrals are not that easy as they used to be. I think before people would blindly give them out, but now it's kind of a reputation thing. Like a lot of the times, if you're working at a FANG company, it's hard to just refer a random stranger who you've never met. And so I think our job is to kind of curate more of a community aspect. So you're not just referring random people that all paid for the same website. It should be a little bit more along the lines of like, I'm referring you because we have a previous relationship, and I know that you're, a good data scientist / engineer, and I know that, you'd be a great fit at this company. So that's what ideally what referrals are for, right, on the company side. And so I think if we can kind of make that on an online community, that would be the goal, at least for us. What do you think about data science bootcamp? Is it possible to get the position, co-op position, having college diploma plus certification of DS bootcamp? Certification of boot camps are kind of weird. So, like, what does a certification actually mean, right? It means that you finished all these tutorials and you learned a lot of things for like a very intense period of time. And so I think that's the only thing that it actually conveys nowadays. Boot camps have positive and negative kind of connotations depending on who you ask. But personally, I think there's a lot more stuff that you have to do after the boot camp to also get a job. So I wouldn't say it's like you do the boot camp and then you immediately get a job. And I think a lot of the marketing is a little misleading that way for a lot of boot camps. Most of it, what the boot camp is actually kind of saying is like, if you put in a lot of work, you're going to get the job. But it's not just like you sign up for this boot camp, you're automatically granted a job. I hope that's like pretty straightforward. But yeah, ask me any more questions about that. How to tackle domain switching and questions in interviews. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Where are you? The view looks nice. I'm in Hawaii right now. View is nice. Can you share your experience on different case study based questions during data science interviews? Can you share your experience on different case study based questions? So my experience giving them or receiving them? I'll assume this is receiving them, but basically my experience in case study based questions during data science interviews was that I would always tackle it from a specific kind of framework, which was always about clarifying the questions, clarifying the scope, and basically then trying to understand what they're really getting at. So a lot of it is actually around not answering the question immediately. It's more about like understanding what they're really trying to say. Most questions that they ask you that are case study based are called loaded questions. What that means is that there's like definitely a lot more behind that question that they're asking, and they're just trying to figure out if you can kind of like suss it out basically in the very beginning parts. So that's basically kind of like my experience on it. I have a lot more to talk about on that subject, but I'd have to link to you. I'll link a blog post for that. So why don't I just use this time to send you guys all my blog posts as they come up. And then I will get back to answering the questions immediately after I finish finding these dump blog posts. Product data science interview. So here's my thoughts on that one. Thank you for your question, John Hunt. Okay. Jesse, hello. What if the problems interest you, but you feel the data infrastructure and platform is not mature to accommodate solving those problems yet? Should this be a deal breaker or expected? Is this in relation to a data science job? If so, then oh wait, I think I missed one. Sorry. Okay, let me get to FMXY's question and Andre's question first. Do you have a Discord community channel? We have a Slack channel. We are actually going to keep on using it, but we haven't built an integration to really add a lot of people to it yet, and so maybe I'll link that below as well. Did you ever think about switching to software engineering? I did, because I saw the salaries of some of these machine learning engineers, and I was like, if I ever fail at this, I will back up myself to machine learning engineering. Turns out machine learning engineering is actually extremely hard, given that you have to be really good at software engineering already, and then be good at machine learning. But then when you talk to these machine learning engineers that work at these companies, they're just like, they're like regular people. It's not like they're gods or anything like that. I think what it is the interviews are actually really, really hard. And so, in general, software engineering, really hard. I'm not good at lead code, so I'll say that again. So I don't pass the technical bar for a lot of these things, so it's tough. You mentioned that you'll ask a friend at Google about the on-site stats questions. How can I access that discussion that you have about Google DS interview on-site? A lot of this does kind of happen in our Slack channel that I just mentioned. I'd love for you guys to sign up. We're trying to move a lot of it over onto the website eventually, but I'll try to bring that back to, I'll make a note of this chat and then try to answer that in a YouTube video later on. Okay, back to ARI. What if the problems interest you, but you feel the data infrastructure and platform is not mature? So if the data infrastructure and platform is not mature enough to accommodate solving these problems, then I would say that you should bring that up to the company and then see if they agree with you or not. It should be more about a personal, these are all more personal decisions. And so, and this is very specific, and so I don't have too much experience on it, so I can't really answer this question very well. Awesome. Thanks, Jesse, for using our platform. Any advice for someone who has, any advice for someone who has an actuarial science background but hasn't had any experience in data science? Someone who has an actuarial background but hasn't had any experience in data science. I would say that if you have an actuarial science background, then it's probably actually a lot easier for you to switch into data science. The biggest problem is probably, or the biggest hurdle is probably getting someone to, to convince them that you as a candidate are like a good candidate to switch over. And so I'd say the main advice for you is to probably do a lot of, this is kind of a shitty advice, but it's like networking, working on your resume, basically showcasing that you do know data science to all these recruiters. Basic advice. I think intrinsically, though, your background is perfectly fine. I think actual science. On Cheat Jane, hey, do you remember me? I was an intern for you. I don't know if IQ has any open positions that I could join. Yes, I remember you on Cheat, potentially. Yes, I find some bigger companies with cool problems. Okay. John Hunt, can you please link your Slack channel so we can discuss over Slack at the Google interview? I have an interview coming up next week. I'll try to get to that, John. Andrew, hey Jay, I had a friend of mine ask some questions about IQ before. I answered them, but wondering how you would answer them. I spent the last few years post-grad working on the tech space across various product analytics roles and have been seriously thinking about formally transitioning into DS. I'm curious about your general impression of the content on the site, given that most of it seems to be gated behind a premium subscription. More generally, coming from a biz ops background, do you think interview queries and interview prep sites is enough for data science recruiting? Thanks, Andrew, for transferring this question over. I would say that for one, we try to keep a lot of the content free on the blog and give like a good preview in terms of like interview questions and a little bit of the course. But yeah, a lot of it is gated. So, I mean, if they're asking me if I think it's worth it, of course I think it's worth it. But more generally, I think, is it enough for data science recruiting? That is a harder question. So that, I don't think we do a lot right in the way of improving your own experience for recruiting. I think it's more about once you get the interview, we try to do a good job of preparing you for passing that interview. And so, if you're not getting replies from recruiters, then that's definitely something else that you have to probably work on. And then you can definitely, talk to Andrew as a coach to help you with that. But if you are getting calls back from recruiters and you're not passing the interviews, then I definitely think that we have a lot more content that we're trying to provide within the data science space for that. SC days. Okay, sorry, I missed one. Srajan Bhushan. I'm just butchering names. But any advice on someone who has a lot of predictive modeling experience but not causal inference experience? So what is this for, I guess? Yeah, so a lot of this needs a little bit more explanation behind this, but I would say that generally my question is that, if you're interviewing for a data science role, which I think this is what this is for, then I would say that causal inference is something that you can intuitively learn through just reading more about it, but also by applying case studies. So for example, causal inference is a lot of the times also like when you can't A/B test. So let's say we have a thing like, I am wondering if putting on a YouTube live video will improve our subscriber numbers on interview query. How do I apply causal inference to that, besides the fact that I can't A/B test my YouTube live videos? I mean, I guess I technically could if I sent half of them an email, sending them a link to my YouTube live, and then half of them not an email. But in a better scenario, I can use causal inference, right? And just kind of see who joins the live chat, how many of them have converted to interview query, and who doesn't join the live chat, and then how many of them have converted to interview query. So that's kind of like how I think about causal inference. I came up with that example out of my head, and so I think if you keep on applying case studies and reading more case studies about it, will definitely help. What kind of projects do I need in my portfolio? Yeah, see, this is a very loaded question as well, so this is tough. I would say, please, maybe elaborate a little bit more. But dependent on, your background, I'm going to assume that you're like a new grad or, don't have a lot of experience. I'd say the best projects in your portfolio are the ones that relate to the companies that you're applying to. So if you're applying to, let's say like Airbnb, then if you did analysis of all the hotel bookings in Hawaii during COVID, they would find that very interesting. And I think that is probably like some of the best, kind of scenarios there. And that doesn't really open you up to not only does it open you up to Airbnb, it opens you up to any kind of travel startup company as well. So domain expertise, once you have more domain expertise, people want a lot more of that. So that's my advice. What job boards would you recommend for data science positions? I will flip this question around. If we were to build a data science job board, what would you like? Currently for data science positions, I think the best job board is always the one that has the most liquidity, which means like the most number of jobs. And so we've thought about this problem a lot. I think Indeed and LinkedIn are all good, but I would love to know you guys' thoughts on what would make a really good job board. I personally would love my own, would love to build a job board for data scientists, because I used to work at a job board company, and I want to figure out how to apply that specifically for data science roles. So please put your thoughts there. Did the hiring bar raise in general after COVID? Yes, it did. I heard from a lot of people, including my friend Jeff, that said that after COVID, it got a lot harder. And I will send his offer 7 days. I'll link his blog post in the chat. So I really like this blog post, and I am going to try to, whoa, here's another one out. I'm going to try to send it out. Here it is in the chat. This, I think, is a great example of what has happened. Okay, how do you feel about a lot of data scientist positions actually turning out to be data analyst positions? Many companies struggle to put ML into production and end up just requesting reports from DS. That definitely happens. How do I feel about it? I mean, it is what it is. Data science is basically actually a culmination of 8 different positions, and then each with their own like specific sort of skill sets that they need from people. So I would say try to figure that out before you join. And if they really do struggle to put ML into production, then maybe you should try to work on putting ML into production yourself for them. How important is coding knowledge? I have experience in R, but not SQL. But I feel that code is very easy to learn if you apply yourself for a few weeks. Coding knowledge is important. SQL is not actually kind of like coding, I would go to say. SQL is more like data manipulation. So if you're comfortable with data manipulation in R, then you'll learn SQL like that. And I agree with you. It's very easy to learn if you apply yourself for a few weeks. So I think that's like the go-to. Haircut turned out nice. Thank you. Is the lack of coding knowledge a turnoff for companies? Definitely. Everyone uses SQL right now. How can a data science function stay aligned with the business but also keep scope for experimentation and risk-taking? Do you think this is a challenge in industry? So it is a challenge, and the best businesses know how to iterate on it quickly. So the truth is that data science, like anything else, is a game of priorities, right? We can either do engineering, we can apply data science, or we can put a lot of money into marketing, right? There's obviously more options than that. And at the end of the day, if your founder or the company doesn't prioritize data science, then in a long enough time horizon, you'd assume that they wouldn't do very well because they're not, using machine learning and AI to drive more business results. So at the same time, we haven't had data science for about, the entire existence of the human race. And most of the time it turned out fine. It just so happens that when bigger businesses can apply it really effectively, they can do really, really well, like Google and Facebook. And so if you're talking about startups, then I think it's a different question in general. Awesome. Okay, 30 minutes in. Wow, that passed by fast. Thanks for adding all these questions, guys. I think I will probably end it. This is a great test at what it meant to go on YouTube Live. If anyone has any more questions, please add them in the comments below. Hopefully I saved this live stream so I can go back and actually answer these questions with YouTube videos. And I'll try to get back onto posting more. I haven't in a while because I got, it's really hard to start up again after you stop, but I've been writing a lot. So it's kind of about trading the mediums right now. But I also don't like how one-sided streaming is. So next time I'll try to prep more, get more people involved, maybe make it even a Zoom webinar or something. just something else where there's definitely like maybe I can like see people's faces or something. But thanks for joining in, and I'll talk to you guys soon. I have not heard about Yandex, Andre. What is that? What is Yandex? Oh, it seems like a definitely seen a bunch of random emails from this company. Like Russians Google. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. Russia. I'll see you guys later. Bye.